Morning, everybody. How you doing? Welcome back to the Spurs Talk Show. I'm Sean Butler. There's Bugsy Malone in the bushes there, doing what she loves to do. We hope that you guys are all happy and healthy doing the things that you love, with the people that you love doing them with. Please do me a favour. Hit the like button like you always do on the video. The like game is very strong with you guys. Hit the subscription button if you haven't already. Join the now near 11,200 people that have gone before you. Insane growth, incredible support for the channel. Very, very appreciative. So is Bugsy. We know she's the star of the show. It's okay. Hit the notification bell whilst you're at it, guys, and drop a comment. Let me know your thoughts on today's topic. Let's get into the transfer news, views, and clues on this quite a lovely Thursday morning. It comes across to me that there are two stories to talk about today. One of them is the Harry Kane saga. And it's quite interesting what's going on there. According to reports in the press, Daniel Levy is absolutely furious with Thomas Tuchel, for meeting with Harry Kane at his home in London and trying to convince him of giving up on Tottenham and joining him in the pursuit of a Champions League and the Bundesliga, etc. And apparently Daniel Levy is so angry with Tuchel for going behind his back and doing it that way that he's going to make Bayern Munich bleed if he wants to prize the player away from Tottenham this particular summer. At the same time, the reports are out that Daniel Levy is willing to offer Harry Kane a new contract. A new contract has been put on the table, and it's supposed to smash Tottenham's transfer or a typical salary cap, salary budget restraints. Going to be somewhere in the region of 350 grand a week, which obviously make him the club's highest paid player, in an effort to keep him at the club. And Daniel Levy, allegedly, again, all allegedly, according to various reports from journalists with integrity, that he is in no rush to sign a new contract, and certainly won't sign the new contract whilst the transfer window is open. So there's quite a lot to break down on this one. Like how often does situations like Harry Kane meeting with Thomas Tuchel happen? Is Daniel Levy within his rights to be angry with Thomas Tuchel meeting with Harry Kane, who is still a Tottenham player, when it was reported that only last week didn't Mickey van der Ven fly over from Wolfsburg to London to meet with Ange Postecoglou? I mean, is it allowed or isn't it? I'm not sure what the rules are regarding tapping up. And that was obviously a phrase that was used a lot back in the late 90s. Alex Ferguson was often accused of it. It's not something you really hear so much anymore. I guess it comes across like it's more just an unwritten rule that you shouldn't do it. Or maybe it's a written rule that you don't do it and you can't do it, but it's a general understanding that it happens all the time. You know, how is it otherwise that personal terms are always agreed long before the fee is agreed for any transfer? I don't know whether or not Daniel Levy is a little bit naive or, I don't know, hypocritical if he thinks it's not okay to do it to his star player, but is okay when the boot's on the other foot. We'll put that to one side. I think we know that Daniel Levy likes to do things his own way and likes to have, you know, the leverage in every negotiation. And maybe on this one, he doesn't like the fact that he was caught unaware by the fact that there was a meeting going on. Maybe that's the side that really irritates him, that he wasn't aware that Harry Kane was talking to Bayern Munich, if it's true that he was. And if it's true that he was, then how do we feel as Tottenham fans about Harry Kane? Now, I was on a lot of streams yesterday. Most of the day I was on various streams. And I think we've had this conversation several times, so forgive me if I'm repeating myself. But I personally believe that Harry Kane is... It's frustrating me a little bit that no one really knows what he is doing, how he's feeling, he's not really showing his cards. At the same time, people are criticising him for not letting us know what his intentions are. Yet when he did a couple of years ago, and he went on the Gary Neville podcast and basically said he wanted out, that went down like a pint of warm sick. And so I think what people are saying when they say show your cards, what they're really saying is come out and distance yourself from the speculation. Come out and say that you want to be at Tottenham, just like Heung-min Son did. But it's not really in his... It doesn't behoove him to do that. I think if he does want to stay, he should still leave everyone on tenterhooks a little bit so that he can leverage Daniel Levy into spending enough money in the window to improve the squad to a level that will allow him, hopefully, to do what everyone wants, which is for him to win a trophy whilst playing for Tottenham Hotspur. And if Harry Kane was to come out and profess his loyalty to the club, then Daniel Levy doesn't have the pressure on him anymore, at least from that side of the argument, to follow through. So I feel like whilst silence is irritating, it's also understandable. He doesn't want to show his cards because if his true feelings are he wants out, and that's the way that the media are reporting it, then him saying that is not going to go down very well with Tottenham fans, especially if you have a situation that repeats itself like it did 2 years ago, where he can say he wants to leave and go to Bayern Munich, but where Daniel Levy still says, well, that's fine, but only for a ridiculous amount of money, and that number will be something that Bayern Munich can't afford. And then you have a situation where Harry Kane once again is playing under duress and may face the ire of the Tottenham fans. So like I say, silence is deafening, but understandable and probably necessary in the moment. Whether or not he will end up at Bayern Munich or not, I still don't think he will. I still don't think that Harry Kane will be allowed to leave for less than an extortionate amount of money that Bayern Munich won't be able to justify. Remember, Bayern Munich have just had to pay out for Kim Min-jae, and because they triggered a release clause, now obviously I'm not entirely sure what the conditions of the release clause are, and maybe there were structural payments that was a bit friendlier than normal in that release, but generally speaking, a release clause, because it's a forced endeavour, the selling club is under no obligation to be convivial and convenient for the buying club to structure the deal in ways that, you know, make it easier. So Bayern Munich may have just had to pay out a significant amount of that 50 million or whatever it was for Kim Min-jae up front. That will obviously put some pressure on the coffers and will put pressure on their ability to figure out a number that makes sense for Harry Kane. I guess Harry Kane is in a somewhat of a win-win situation, in as much as if he doesn't leave this summer, there will be a monster contract on the table and Harry Kane can sign it or not sign it. But I feel like once, in an ideal world, let me finish on this particular point. In an ideal world, we should, as a fan base, have a clearer indication of what's going on once Harry Kane returns to pre-season training, which I think is on Monday. And hopefully within 24 or 48 hours of that happening, Harry Kane will have had his chat with Ange Postecoglou. And you would hope that by then, Ange will have had his chance to use his word magic and win him over with the project. And if that's the case, then I think we'll know. If we don't know by the middle of next week with clarity, then for me personally, I think you could probably, if you were a betting person, you'd probably err on the side of that he wants to leave and that we're going to have a difficult rest of the summer, because these things will drag on if Daniel Levy puts a ridiculous number on his head, which he will. And you don't want what happened with Berbatov years ago, where it got drawn out all the way to the last couple of days of the window, and then in the end Tottenham had no option but to take in Fraser Campbell as a make-weight in the deal, which left us all over the place in terms of preparedness for the season. Whatever the decision is, I feel like we should all hope that it's done, it's clear and it's concise and it's made within the next week or two, so that we at least have enough time to go and to implement whatever plan B or plan C is that apparently the club have been preparing for a number of years. Who are those targets? We spoke about this yesterday. I'm not going to speak about it again. But to me, it's a very interesting dynamic. I don't think all of the leverage sits at Harry Kane's feet. Not yet, anyway. But if the window closes and he's still a Tottenham player, then I don't think that that's going to be a very nice situation for anyone around the club. And it leads on to the question that we had last night, is what do you do with the captain's armband? The obvious candidate at the moment would be Harry Kane. But are you really going to justify giving a guy who hasn't signed a new contract and is clearly running his contract down the role of captain? He's a leader on the pitch in terms of what he does, not in what he says. And I don't know, the way that he gets advised around some of these protracted contract situations, it doesn't come across like he's really pulling in the same direction as Tottenham. So if the season starts and he hasn't signed a new contract but he hasn't left, where do we go with the captain's armband? I don't think there's any clear candidate, and that in itself speaks volumes around the players that we have. Where are the leaders within our squad? I don't know. Bentancur, he's not going to be around for 6 months. I'm not even sure if he speaks fluent English. Eric Dyer, we don't want at the club. Hugo Lloris isn't going to be at the club. Ben Davies, I mean, really? Heung-min Son. Listen, Sonny's been one of the longest servants. A great player, a very likeable guy, but he doesn't strike me as the type of person that's going to grab you by the shirt if you're not performing in the half-time locker room and give you a polite slap across the face and tell you to wake up. Wakey, wakey! I don't think he's going to do that, so I'm not sure if he's the right fit. I don't know, that's for another conversation. Only other news I want to bring to you. How much time have I been talking for? I'll keep this quick. Manor Solomon is the other news. We thought this deal was done. We thought it was a free transfer. We spoke about it. I think it's Annex 7 or Annex 8 of the FIFA transfer regulations. Because he's a foreign player playing for a football club that is in a country that is at war, he has the right to terminate or suspend his contract and move for free. That is probably arguably the main reason why we signed the guy. He's got one hell of an injury record, and whilst he did well in a very short spell for Fulham last season, to have seen what he's capable of and put a significant valuation on his head probably would have meant that we weren't doing business. So Daniel Levy sees it more as an economical, logical transfer than anything else. The Shakhtar Donetsk CEO doesn't agree. He's come out and said that, Shakhtar spent 6 million euros on this player and it's unfair that we're not going to get anything back. We can't sustain that. It will cripple us economically. It's not our fault. I'm paraphrasing all this, by the way. It's not our fault that the Ukraine are at war. And, it's ridiculous. And he's come out and said, I'm very hopeful that when Tottenham and Shakhtar Donetsk meet for their pre-season friendly in a couple of weeks, on the eve of the match, we hope that we'll sit down with the owners of Tottenham and it will come to a mutually acceptable solution where both teams can be seen to win. A win-win. I don't know. Listen, I feel for the man. I 100% feel for the man. I really do. Difficult situation to lose one of your best players when it's not through any fault of your own. But does Daniel Levy strike you guys as the type of guy who lets sentiment get in the way of business? I don't think so. I find it odd that we even struck up a friendly with them anyway. Maybe there's more to it than meets the eye. But this idea that Daniel Levy's going to pay him 10 million euros unnecessarily, or even just let him get out for free, 6 million euros unnecessarily, if he doesn't have to do it, do you really think that Daniel Levy's the sort of guy that's going to do it? I'm not sure. I don't think he understands the ruthless negotiator that Daniel Levy is. And if Daniel Levy has leverage in any negotiation, then my word, does he like to use it. And in this particular one, the rules are the rules. Daniel Levy's, as far as I understand it, under absolutely zero obligation to do anything in the way of giving compensation to Shakhtar. I could be wrong, but that's not what I've been led to believe. So, I don't know. I think the CEO of Shakhtar Donetsk is coming out and speaking publicly and more out of hope than in confidence. Maybe a different CEO might see things differently and use the situation to do something nice now, because in the future it might be of benefit to have good relationships with a team who, for what it's worth, have got a fantastic track record of developing young players. At the same time, Shakhtar Donetsk CEO usually is a brilliant negotiator himself, usually gets every penny and more out of every deal. Look at what he got from Chelsea for Mudryk, for crying out loud. A lot of money. So it'll be an interesting dinner conversation between the two parties. I just find it a little bit surprising that that's his intentions or his belief, that Daniel Levy would go out of his way to see the wood for the trees. Let me know your thoughts, guys. Like, subscribe and comment, and as always, bye-bye.